give you some college football playoff predictions. Now, again, like I said earlier to start the show, a lot of chalk here. I mean, to be honest, college football has been chalk. There's not much parity. It's really kind of turning into the NBA the last few years, excuse me. The kings stay kings. The rich get richer with recruits. And it's become harder and harder to kind of crack that elite level. There's usually, I mean, honestly, maybe 6 or 7 teams a year that are able to actually truly compete for a national title. But there's one team this year that I think is really not getting the love it deserves. Really not getting the attention it deserves. And another team in their own conference, to me, is getting much more love, and it's misguided. So tell you what it is. We'll give you the shoo-ins first. We'll give you the no expert is going to just really say anything different. So we're just going to shout into the echo chamber and say the same thing probably, unfortunately, most people are going to say. But, hey, we're in the prediction industry. We're here to give you what I think is going to happen, not outlandish predictions just to get some attention. Clemson, first team in. I mean, just even without their great receiver, Justin Ross, this team is still loaded. I mean, Trevor Lawrence, we can stop it right there. We can start the Clemson conversation with Trevor Lawrence. We can stop it at Trevor Lawrence. Best quarterback in the nation. He's back. Travis Etienne, the best running back in the nation, is also back. Both of those guys returning. I mean, obviously, Trevor Lawrence returning because he could have opted out. Travis Etienne returning because he could have went to the NFL last year. Both returned and are playing this year with one goal in their mind, with one reason this year, to win a national title. They ran into a buzzsaw last year in LSU. No one was beating the LSU Tigers, just running through everybody. But now Clemson comes back loaded, comes back motivated. They're going to be in the college football playoff. It's going to take a very 2020-esque situation for Clemson not to be in the playoff this year. So there's your number one team that's going to be in the playoff, the Clemson Tigers. Another team we're used to seeing in the CFP, the Alabama Crimson Tide. I mean, I'll ask you. I'll do my prediction with this. I'll ask you a question. Do you think Nick Saban is missing out on the playoff for a second straight season? Do you think so? Last year was the first year in the playoff history he did not make it with Alabama. Do you really think he's going to miss it again for a second straight year? I don't. I absolutely don't. You look at this roster. Devontae Smith, Jalen Waddle, Najee Harris, Dylan Moses, Patrick Surtain. They have a ton of weapons, a ton of talent on that team. Now, obviously, the biggest question for them is going to be who's going to play quarterback. Is it going to be Mac Jones, who filled in for Tua last year? Is it going to be young, hotshot, big-time recruit Bryce Young? To me, I would play the young guy. I'd go Bryce Young. In this kind of year, with everything kind of being out, different, we'll say, this is the year I think you kind of take a risk and play for the future while also having a ton of talent to win. So they're better than Georgia to me. They're better than Auburn. LSU's taking a step back. All three are on their schedule this year, so the schedule's harder. But they catch a break with Georgia with Jamie Newman leaving. LSU has had a lot of skilled players not only go to the draft last year, but also opt out this year. So Alabama's in a great spot. They'll be in the playoff. So Clemson in the playoff, Alabama in the playoff. Another team we have come to see a lot in the playoff of late, Lincoln Riley and the Oklahoma Sooners. It's been a rotating door quarterback these last few years, and it's been no problem at all. Baker Mayfield, boom, in the playoff. Kyler Murray, boom, in the playoff. Jalen Hurts transfers in, some success, but really more known for his legs than his arm. Transfers in, boom, playoff. And playoff because he throws well with his arm. So now, who will be the fourth quarterback in 4 years to try to get the Oklahoma Sooners to the playoff? It will be Spencer Rattler. Big-time recruit, a lot of hype for this guy. Redshirted last year. I think he's going to play really, really, really well. The offensive line returns 4 starters, which is huge. We talk about continuity, especially in college football. No spring practice. A very weird offseason with training-wise. That's big for him. And to be honest, too, you look at the way Lincoln Riley builds this offense. It's concerning that, yes, their wide receiver depth is not great. Yes, their running back depth took a hit with Kennedy Brooks opting out. But to be honest, this offense is so plug and play. This offense is built to have success no matter who's in there at receiver, no matter who's in there at running back, no matter who's in there at quarterback. The schemes, the play calls are designed to put whoever's back there in a position to succeed. So I'm buying in that Oklahoma, with a new quarterback for the 4th consecutive year, will be very good. and that they will have some success. And more importantly, too, the biggest question mark for Oklahoma is not their offense, it's their defense. Alex Grinch, their defensive coordinator, came over last year, improved the defense. Now, it was so bad 2 years ago, their defense, that he improved it significantly, and they still were not great. Below average. So now year 2, another year under his belt, I think that defense will continue to take another step. They will improve and they will be better, which is going to be the main difference this year for getting Oklahoma in the playoff. So 3 stalwarts that are constantly in the playoff: Oklahoma, Alabama, and Clemson. I apologize for going chalk. I apologize for giving you something that probably you've heard a million times already. But here's the team that I'm really buying into that I have not seen. I've honestly, and this is no joke, I have not seen this team really picked many places. I really haven't had this team talked about a lot. That's the Florida Gators. I'm buying in. This is Florida's year. They're going to make the playoff for a few reasons. Number one, they return their quarterback, Kyle Trask, leading returning passer in the SEC. You know, a lot's been said about him not really having the starting experience. I think he played great last year when he filled in for Felipe Franks. I think he'll take another step now, the offseason, knowing he's a quarterback, having this offense designed to be built around him. I think he'll take another step. I think he'll be very good at the quarterback position. They return a lot of experience on both sides of the ball, which, again, in a year where there's no spring football, essentially, where it's the training has been different, the training camp itself has been very different. I mean, we talk about the NFL having, getting interrupted and not being the same offseason. College football, you can make the argument that they were even more impacted. These kids are used to structure. They're used to working out in a certain way. Pros at least have access to gyms and trainers. These college kids, when they go home, they don't have access to gyms. They don't have gym. Most of them, I should say, don't have gyms in their garage or personal trainers that are coming over. I mean, you're talking about, filling up backpacks with sand and trying to run up a hill as part of your training this offseason. So to me, because it's been a weird year, training-wise, having a lot of experience on both sides of the ball is key more than ever, especially in college football. So you talk about continuity. They are returning their same coaching staff, essentially. They lost one offensive coach. But the head coach and also the offensive coordinator, Dan Mullen's the same. Their quarterback's the same. And you look at why, you look at other teams in that SEC that they're going to have to compete with, and also across the nation, but specifically in the SEC. And you have Georgia, who is a team that a lot of people are picking to go to the playoff, people are really buying into. Georgia has a new offensive coordinator, a new quarterback, 4 offensive line starters are going to be new this year. So, yeah, I'm a little concerned about Georgia having a lot of turnover, having a quarterback that, to me, does not fit the system in JT Daniels. I'm very, very skeptical, of how he'll play in his first year in Athens, if he's even cleared to play from a knee injury because he's still coming off a torn ACL. So that's why I give Florida the edge over Georgia. I think this is the year Florida finally gets Georgia. The Gators have a manageable schedule at Texas A&M week 3, but fans are going to be limited there. Not to mention, Texas A&M, a lot of people are high on them, talking about them being pretty good this year. The reason there's a lot of buy-in for Texas A&M is twofold. One, they returned a 4th-year starter quarterback in Kellen Mond. Let's be honest here. A 4-year starting quarterback in college football is not I don't want to say not a good thing, but it's not as big of a deal, or it's not as a sure thing or sign of success as it used to be. Because now, if you're any sort of talented, the money is so great in the NFL. The desperation for getting a franchise quarterback is so great. If you're any sort of talent, if you have any first-round potential, you're going after year 3. As soon as you're draft eligible, all the good quarterbacks are gone. Kellen Mond, I say it nicely, not a good quarterback. Number 1. Number 2, part of the reason why Texas A&M was getting so much hype, because the schedule was weak. I could have used a lot of different words there. We'll say weak. Now it's different. Now they have 10 SEC games. Now they have Florida on their schedule. So I'm not that intimidated if I'm Florida going to Texas A&M. I don't think they're going to be great. So that's manageable. At Tennessee, the final game of the year is going to be tough, but I think that's, again, Tennessee's still a little bit away from being a real contender. They're getting some momentum. They're getting recruiting momentum, but we don't see that turn up until 2 or 3 years down the road. So that's a winnable game. And to be honest, the biggest game of the year is going to come down to Georgia. Who do you trust more in a big spot? Dan Mullen or Kirby Smart? Really think about it. Because Kirby Smart has had the success. He's put Georgia on the stage. But every big game that Georgia's had, Kirby Smart exactly is not the reason why they're winning games. His game planning, his in-game decisions aren't exactly the recipe for success. So to be honest, despite a less talented roster, I trust Dan Mullen more in a big spot than I do Kirby Smart. Sorry, trying to do a bunch of things at once here, as you can see. Not the easiest thing in the world. But because of that, I'm taking Dan Mullen when the game's on the line to make better decisions and to put his team in a better position to succeed than I do Kirby Smart at Georgia. So I don't like it. I don't like Georgia with JT Daniels coming in late, having to learn a new offense, and an offense that I'm skeptical that he can fit into, by the way. I'm very skeptical that will lead to success in a playoff spot for Georgia, so that's why I have Georgia out. I am never trusting Texas again. I am sick and tired. And I could do a whole, and I was debating it too, I could do a whole segment ranting about Texas, why we should never buy into them ever again. They have to prove it first, because every year, every single year without doubt, what is the offseason hype? What is the offseason discussion? Texas is finally back. They have this going for them. They have got that going for them. They can actually finally, this is the year they're going to put it all together, put all that great talent they have together, and make a run. Win the Big 12. Beat Oklahoma. Go to the playoff. This is not the year. It's never the year. Until they actually do it. Until they win a big game. Until they actually make the playoff or win the freaking Big 12. Win the Big 12. I don't want to hear about Texas as a college football contender or college football playoff contender ever again. Ever again. Sam Ellinger. Everyone is going crazy about Sam Ellinger, their fourth-year starting quarterback. Oh, Texas has a lot of experience, 4-year quarterback coming back. That's what you want to have this year. Sam Ellinger, there's a reason why he didn't go to the draft last year. He is not good. He is a pretty good college quarterback at best. At best. He's not the reason why Texas, or I should say, he has not played well enough to lead Texas to the playoff, lead Texas to some real success. You had a great year in 2017. You beat Georgia in the Sugar Bowl, and what do we hear? What do we hear? Or I should say in 2018, excuse me. Texas is back. Oh, that's it, folks. Here's Texas. They're here to stay. They beat Georgia in the Sugar Bowl, where Georgia could not care less about that game. And then they go lay an egg the next year. I am sick and tired of talking about Texas, about hearing about Texas. I don't want to hear about them ever again. Because every year they have a great recruiting class. Every year they always have some hype about bringing in some great high school players. And guess what? Every year we're talking about the same thing. They're an 8-4 team. Barely squeaking out wins against Kansas. So please, 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 never again. I do not want to hear about Texas. This is not the year. Last year's not the year. Next year's not the year. The only time I want to hear Texas and the college football playoff is when Texas is in it. That's it. So people can buy the hype. People can talk about Sam Ellinger. Yeah, fourth-year starter. Texas, this is going to be the year. Oklahoma, some turnover. Big 12's wide open. This is going to be the year Texas is going to take it. No. I'm sorry, no. Prove something, then talk. Win, then talk. Win the Big 12. The Big 12's not even that good of a conference. Honestly. What team outside of Oklahoma should really give Texas concerns, should really trip up Texas year in and year out? And they even had success. They've beaten Oklahoma in the past, and they still can't even give themselves a chance to win the Big 12. God. This is, as you can see, this has really been sitting in my mind, and it's something I want to get off my chest for months now. Months. So you heard the Texas rumors earlier in the year. I mean, obviously, when we really start talking about the season, it's been tough because of the way the offseason went. There's really more questions of can they play than actually breaking down and talking about which teams will have success, which will not. But there's been a few times this year, this offseason, this summer, when it seemed, okay, they're going to play, we're going to have a season. There's a few times where, okay, we're going to talk about what we think this season, what's going to happen this season. And every time it's come back to Texas, Sam Ellinger, this is the year. Big 12's wide open. Some question marks about Oklahoma. Texas has the horses this year to do it. Enough. No more. I'm begging you, no more Texas. I'm not buying into them. You should not buy into them.